Have you ever had one of those moments where doubts creep in and you annoyingly just don't feel as confident as you would like to be? You're not alone. The good news is confidence is something that we can all improve on with the right tools and mindset. So keep watching because in the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you my top 5 tips on how to boost your confidence even if you've struggled with self-doubt for years. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll feel completely differently. So let's dive in. But before we do, if you're new to this channel, I'd love you to subscribe. Simply click on the red button in the bottom right hand corner to learn loads more tips on how to master anxiety. So here we go. Here are my top 5 tips on boosting confidence. Number 1. Have you earned the right to be confident? As we learned in the first of this 2-part series, gaining confidence is not a thing, it's a process. By way of reminder, here are the steps in the confidence process. Number 1, you need to be brave and show courage. We first have to step out of our comfort zone. This is what I call, facing our dragon. We need to face our dragon. Number 2, uncertainty and vulnerability. We are now uncertain whether we can do the task or not, and whether we can do it. This leads to vulnerability. We don't like to feel vulnerable. Step 3, competency. By practicing the task over and over again, learning a new skill, we develop capability and competency. And that leads to number 4, which is confidence. When we've mastered something, we then start to feel confident about it. We've built up a stack of evidence. And then we move into our comfort zone. Yeah, we know we can do it. We feel really comfortable and confident. And then we're in our comfort zone. So in part 1, if you remember, we learned about Joe and his absolute terror public speaking. After we explored various options with Joe, one of the things that Joe did to master the art of presentations is he joined an organization called Toastmasters. Toastmasters will help you move from being a complete novice in public speaking to an expert in no time at all. The combination of learning a new skill and then applying it in a realistic setting is quite often all you need to do. They say practice makes perfect, right? When you see someone that is truly confident at what they're doing, they've practiced it a lot. Roger Federer wasn't born with a tennis racket in his hand. He practiced a heck of a lot. So let's get out there and practice and maybe get lucky. Do you remember that quote from Gary Player in the first video? You know, it's funny. The more I practice, the luckier I get. And it's a bit like that with confidence. My second tip is learning to feel comfortable feeling uncomfortable. One of the most common things that I see in clients with lack of confidence and feeling anxious is they don't like the thoughts and feelings that go with it. It's actually these thoughts and feelings that cause the problem. The event itself is neutral. Great example of this is the weather. There's no such thing as good or bad weather. There's just weather. Today is sunny. Last week it was rainy and windy. It could be cold, could be hot. The weather is just the weather. It's how we think about it. Our perception, our thoughts, and our feelings of the weather is actually the problem. When we have self-doubts or lack confidence, we don't do the things we need to do to overcome them because we don't like the thoughts and feelings of feeling uncomfortable and being outside of our comfort zone. So we need to stop avoiding the source of our discomfort. Expecting to become confident at something that you've spent your whole life running away from is probably not the best strategy. But avoidance is a very common tactic that anxious minds employ when we're riddled with self-doubt. So, when our emotional brain is in charge and when you're feeling anxious, you're in an emotional state. Our brains will try and pull us back from the perceived threat or danger, as we've discovered in previous videos. For our emotional brain, the mere potential of making a fool of ourselves in front of our peers is enough to trigger this response. Firstly, our emotional brain does not know the difference between a real or an imaginary threat. It treats them exactly the same. Secondly, it operates in the here and now. It doesn't think long term. It's always seeking short-term comfort over long-term benefit. So embrace your anxiety. It's normal to feel anxious about something that's important to us. Learning to accept the thoughts and the feelings that we're going to feel anxious is a great step. Is it the thoughts and feelings associated with the task that's holding you back rather than the task itself? My third tip is about setting achievable goals. Gradually expose yourself over time to a stretch task, and you'll become greater and better at it. Just dial up that complexity as time goes by. One of my clients, Tony, is a great example of this. He had severe social anxiety. He'd recently separated from his long-term partner and had gotten out the practice of meeting people socially. He'd basically become dependent on his wife's social group and friendships. And when that disappeared, literally overnight, he lost his confidence and struggled to meet anyone socially. The first step was to help Tony find ways to meet new people. He'd seen an advert for a singles group in the local pub. Self-talk stopped him from going in the first instance because he said, well, why would anyone want to speak to me? Why would anyone be interested in me? But he decided to overcome this. And so week one thought, I'm going to make this simple for myself. So he went and literally went to the pub and kind of just observed the group from a distance. He didn't get involved at all. And that went well. They seemed like a nice group. So the second week he went back and he thought, right, I'm just going to pop over for 10 minutes. So he popped over for 10 minutes and said, listen, I'm in a rush. I'm going somewhere, but just wanted to say hello. And that went well. So then he went back week three and he stayed an hour. And you'd see how you build in these layers of complexity. And each week he proved to himself he could do it. So set achievable tasks that stretch you gradually over time. On the topic of negative self-talk, by the way, don't be too hard on yourself. If you're struggling with this self-talk, you're going to have a couple of stumbles along the way. One stumble doesn't make you a failure. So don't let a little slip become a massive slide. Anything positive that you've done to move yourself in the direction towards your goal is a good thing. My fourth tip is to remind yourself of past experiences and successes. Ask yourself, have I done anything similar to this in the past and was it successful? With Tony, life circumstances had eroded his confidence socially. But when he looked back into his 20s, he'd actually been pretty good at meeting people. It was no problem at all for him. He just lost the skill of the art of being sociable or meeting new people. When we explored this further, he realized it was just lack of confidence compounded by the fear of another rejection. This is what was holding Tony back. And once he got over that, he realized that this was not an unsurmountable barrier. My fifth and final tip is avoid comparing how you feel on the inside to how others look on the outside. Comparisons along with expectations are the two most common sources of disappointment that I see with my clients. Do you look at someone who appears confident and think, I wish I could be more like them? If they're truly confident, then maybe they've earned the right to be. However, you have actually no idea how that person's feeling on the inside about what they're doing. So avoid judging yourself by comparing yourself to others. Just because someone looks confident doesn't mean that they are. Never compare how you feel on the inside to how someone looks on the outside. It's just not a fair or valid comparison. If you lack confidence and it's holding you back, or you've been waiting for confidence to arrive on your doorstep before taking on a new challenge, maybe it's now time to face your dragon. Do you know the funny thing is that when I work with people over the years that have faced their dragon down and done the thing that they thought they couldn't do and become confident, they start to feel amazing about themselves. And as a result of that, go on to do bigger and better things. So face your dragon today, push yourself out of your comfort zone, practice, 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 become competent, you'll become confident, and then you'll come back to your comfort zone. I promise you.